Hey guys, I know you haven't seen my face in a while. I haven't really posted a video where I've been actually talking to the camera in a while or doing anything in front of a camera. I'll explain some of that at the end of the video, but for now, I got a review to do of a band that is very important to me, very close to my heart, so I'm gonna do that. And then we'll talk about other stuff. But first of all, the review. Bonsai Trees is a Connecticut-based rock duo, formerly a trio. They are currently a duo comprised of James McPherson, he's doing the guitar, he's also doing the vocals, and Nick Sokol, who's doing the drums. This is their sophomore full-length album, Not Better, that I'm going to be addressing today. It's their follow to their 2013 full-length debut record called Minimalist, and then they had a 2015 EP called Live Free and Die, which was the first thing I ever reviewed on this channel, so I feel obligated to review this new full-length album of theirs. Oh, one thing about that review was that I was very harsh on that EP, and there's a reason for that. I know these guys are not the biggest group out there, and you know, putting them down in my first ever review maybe was a bad look, probably was a bad look. But I also said a lot in that review that I loved their debut record, and I did, and I still do love that debut record. But I just thought that this group could do better. Production-wise, it was kind of a meh release for them with Live Free and Die. I wish the production was a little bit more bright. I wish it was a little less muddy. I wish things were just balanced out a little better, you know, just in general. Also, I don't know if this is news to anybody who loves that EP or loves the title track off of that EP, but it took me until going back and listening to their discography in preparation for reviewing this album that it occurred to me that the riff on the track Live Free and Die off the Live Free and Die EP is a dead ringer for the riff off of My Body by Young the Giant. I'm not sure if they knew this when they were writing the song, and I'm not sure they know this now, but yeah, listen to those songs back to back. Kinda similar. So that was interesting to discover for myself. What are you gonna do, you know? Bonsai Trees. Don't feel bad, Bonsai Trees. Just don't feel bad. Nobody hates on it. But regardless, I still think that they're a really good group in terms of songwriting, in terms of energy, in terms of the vocals of James McPherson, which is better than a lot of indie, up-and-coming indie rock groups that I've heard around my area and in just kind of the underground in general. And I think that just their ability to write catchy hooks is also a great ability to have. I just wish that on that EP, the songwriting was a little better than, you know, was better or up to the standard that Minimalist set. And I just wish the production was better. I just wished that the experiments that they tried to do with adding extra instrumentation would have gone over better. But we had this new full-length album from them, Not Better, came out last week on Friday, and I grabbed it right away, like at 11 o'clock at night, listened to it, and despite what the opening track, the title of the opening track says, this is not a sophomore slump. This is a really solid sophomore release for these guys. I really am enjoying this record from front to back, and I will explain why right now. I also do some nitpicks because I'm very critical, because I am a critic. The group had two kind of singles come out on streaming platforms before this thing came out. These songs, You Owe Me and Lift Off, those two songs came out as single. You Owe Me, I did a track review of that. I did not do a track review of Liftoff because I don't know. Sorry guys, it's been a while since I made a video and I just didn't make the video. But I will say that I love these two singles. I think they're great pop rock, alt rock, indie rock singles. Definitely You Owe Me, the lead single from this thing, definitely having more of a pop rock and indie rock thing going on with a very tight groove that's going on with that track. It definitely sounds like something the Strokes would pull off on like their early records. Really awesome melody, great chorus, really energetic performance, and really the tightness and the energy of the performances on this record are just super consistent. And the production, for the most part, is really consistent on this thing. And I do have, again, just like the slightest nitpick about the production that I'll come back to later, but overall, Production really solid on this thing, and I'll get into the details of it later, but just want to say that outright. The production on this record, I'm very happy with it. And the track Liftoff, the other single, I actually kind of want to put it in my top like 15 or 20 singles of the year list that I might do, just because I was just super impressed with this thing for the first time I heard it. The hand clap and acoustic guitar intro really sets the tone of the track really nicely, really sets up the explosion really nicely, and it actually works into the flow of the record, which was pretty cool. Not only that, but this track also has one of the more memorable guitar riffs on this entire record, and the riff definitely sounds like if you slowed it down and you went back to the 90s, you'd probably hear it on a Smashing Pumpkins record. But the energy that these guys bring, the really, again, great tight performance here, and the really catchy hook, you let me hit a rock, just makes the song so appealing. Also, great bridge on this track, one of the best bridges on the entire record. Really just lifts the song up to an even higher level than it was at before. And there's a ton of deep cuts on this thing that I like. Two of them, which I think I've actually heard in certain capacities before. The track Sophomore Slump, I think I've heard a while back on like an acoustic version of it or something, and I think I've heard Everything You Wanted, but I've never heard the studio versions, which was nice to hear. Also, just there's a lot of great material on this thing, a lot of good tracks. The opening track, Sophomore Slump, definitely kicks off the record well, being one of the catchiest numbers, with another great melody, another catchy chorus, another energetic performance. Also, a guitar solo on this thing that really shows the musicianship of this group has really gone up. Like, it has gone up since Minimalist. Like, it's not a crazy guitar solo or anything, but just the tightness of it, the little guitar harmonies that come in right at the end. It's very short, but it's really punchy, and that's really the entire record overall is just super punchy. I mean, the entire thing is 11 tracks and 35 minutes. Not a long listen. None of the tracks here go over the 4-minute mark. It is definitely not a long thing to get through, but I like that because it kind of really encourages replayability, and I think that's a lot of people are going to get a lot of replayability if they discover this record and they really vibe with it, they really get down with it. I think they're going to be replaying this thing over and over and over just because it's just kind of a short record, you know, you can just kind of get into it right away. It doesn't really take that long. I think that's a good look for these guys. But back to Sophomore Slump, I like how it opens up the entire record with a sample of the I Can't Believe It's Not Butter commercials, and then they just replace, of course, Not Butter with Not Bitter. But the song here is fantastic. I mean, I heard it before. I love it in the context of the record. Love it as an opening track. Super energetic, super fun, super like almost punky in vibe now, and I'm just loving it for how it is. But there are other tracks on here that I love that I didn't hear before the record came out. I do love the track Not Bitter, the title track off of this thing, which has a bass line that really sticks out at the beginning that kind of actually emulates the lead melody of one of the parts of the track that comes in later on, which I thought was a really cool way to use the bass line. And I do love for just this one part that really sticks out in the track for me. For sure, is that really nice groove switch up. That super nice groove switch up in the second verse. I mean, I love the way that the band just snaps into that right away. I mean, there's a ton of sudden changes on this track. Again, the band showing their tightness on this thing, the way that they constantly switch up the mood and the groove of the song. Definitely seems like they paid a lot of attention to that on this thing, just being super tight, making the songs interesting for a lot of people from front to back, because not everybody gets down with pop song structures, but if you can make the pop song structure interesting in 2017, you're doing something right. I do love the track Into the Ground. I think it's maybe, even though I love the singles, it might be the sharpest tune on the record. I mean, just, even though it's the longest track on the record, super punchy, super fun riff. Again, great energetic type performance. Super duper sticky chorus. I mean, super duper sticky melody. that just ingrained itself into the back of my brain on like the first or second list. It was it's a great track, and really there's a lot of tracks that there's not really a track that I dislike on this thing. This thing is really consistent from front to back, and I think that definitely you can see the up in consistency on this record, unlike on the Let Free and Die EP, in my opinion. I think the songwriting on here is consistently not only in this band's wheelhouse. They don't try to do anything crazy on this record, which I'm not saying that they shouldn't. I'm just saying that when they did on their last project, didn't go over as well. On here, they're just kind of staying in their wheelhouse for the most part, but it sounds great. So if they're not making a lot of mistakes with their own wheelhouse, it's kind of hard to hate on. The tracks Museum and Everything You Wanted on this record definitely do serve as nice spots on the back end of the record that kind of give the record a nice amount of dynamics with the acoustic guitars that are utilized on those tracks. The track Everything You Wanted being a very simple, stripped down ballad with just acoustic guitar. There's no drums on this thing, just super simple acoustic ballad that I enjoy a lot. I love the groove that comes in right away on the track Museum with those acoustic guitar strums, and this track kind of turns into one of the biggest and most epic choruses on this entire record. And it's another favorite of mine, even though I do have slight issues with it that I will get again into later. Of the tracks that I haven't mentioned, I do like the track My Debt quite a bit. I do think it's a very catchy tune. I do think it has some hilariously bitter lyrics on the hook that I think a lot of people, I can see a lot of hipster millennials singing this hook. I like how these Museum and Everything You Wanted kind of sets up a bit of a very soft and subtle end to the record. And then the final track, I Hate Jokes, Never Tell Them, just throws that all to hell. They bring in just a really heavy, barn-burning, maybe the heaviest and loudest track on the entire record, in terms of just the guitars just being relentlessly distorted and aggressive on this track. And then you feel like you're going to get an epic end to the record at least, and then they kind of start to go back into the verse right at the end of the track, and then James just stops the song randomly for, I don't know why. He just did. He just, stop it, and then that's it. And I guess it encourages you to listen to the album again, because you're like, that's it? Well, then I gotta listen to the album again. I guess that's the biggest appeal, and I think it was just kind of a tongue-in-cheek thing to do. Even though it kind of is a double-edged sword, I do like the kind of bitterness that, it's called not bitter, but the kind of bitterness, the kind of spunky, fun attitude that this record has. Even though it is serious at a lot of points, there is humor that sneaks into it with the way this record opens up. With some of the lyrics on this record. The cover art, I mean, super dark, super kind of brooding in terms of, it's a hand-drawn cover. It looks very kind of ominous. And then you look at the characters that these two guys, they're kind of drawn on the cover, and they're just like so happy. Like it just seems like there's a lot of tongue-in-cheek things going on with this record, and I think that that's definitely a good look for these guys. I think this is a good thing for these guys. But I do have bad things to say about it. Not necessarily bad things, just nitpicks, things I don't like about this thing, unfortunately. First of all, and this is gonna sound like I'm repeating myself from the last time I reviewed these guys, but the production. And I know I have said the production on this record is a lot better. And yes, it is. It is very bright. It is very just kind of like gets you right in your eardrums. Like the first time you listen to it, you're like, oh, this is searing. The guitars are just up in your face. They're right in the front. James' vocals are right at the front too. The drums are usually in a nice spot. And also, so is the bass. The bass just kind of thickens things up. It sticks out when it needs to. However, I will say that the drums on a couple tracks just feel like they get buried a little bit, especially on the track Sophomore Slump. But it doesn't really hurt the tracks being super catchy and the song shining through anyway. So it's kind of a super duper harsh nitpick, but just that, like the production on a couple tracks. Also the track Museum, even though I like this track anyway, there's kind of a part at the end where there's like this spoken word, and then it gets layered with some vocals singing the hook, and it's kind of a mess, and not in a good way. It kind of sounds a little, it threw me off in my first few listens to this thing. Like, it just felt like, what is going on? Like, plus because James is like yelling these lines, and yeah, it's a little much, but it honestly didn't hurt me from liking the song all too much. And I think a couple moments could have been cleaned up, but other than that, I mean, I think a lot of the small bits of added instrumentation on this thing are very nicely placed, like on Everything You Wanted. Even though that's the shortest track on here, it's a little acoustic thing. There's like, I think, a cello in there. I think there's some like muted banjo that's being plucked in the background of this track, which I really liked, and I think some female background vocals too. Really nice touches. I mean, it's not like, oh, it just sounds so massive and wonderful, but it didn't need to, you know? It's a great little tune that has great effect just off of its songwriting alone. I think these guys just kind of built a little bit of things beside it, and it really kind of brought the tune to life for me. And while we're staying on the nitpicks, let's get to the biggest nitpick. There are some tracks that I think just aren't as good as the other tracks. I think they're just kind of meh, a little. The closing track, even though I do think it's loud, it's not one of the best written tunes on here. It's just kind of, you know, it's okay. The track Snake Lungs, even though it again has a really big riff on it, and James is going crazy all over this track with his it just feels like it's not one of the best written tunes. Just not one of the best written tunes. Not one of the most memorable tunes on the record. And then there's the track Forever Awake, the second track on the record right after Sophomore Slump, which honestly might be my least favorite on the record, because not only it's not like bringing me a lot of energy, it's probably the least energetic song on the record, though I do like the tight verses on this thing. The chorus just feels so underneath these guys. Like, it just feels like kind of a very ho-hum chorus, and the lyrics just kind of being like, I don't care anymore. Like, it just felt like a little beneath these guys to be writing hooks like this. And it feels like I've heard this hook like at least 10 or 20 other times on other people's songs. So yeah, I just wish that track could have been better. But other than those critiques all coming together and kind of holding this record back just for me a little bit, this is a great record. I think this is a really fun record. I think this is a really concise, punchy, catchy, fun rock record. Also, whoever did the guitar solo on Into the Ground, that was awesome. Production's great. Songwriting's great, energy's great, performances are great. Just a couple tracks that I'm not really a big fan of, that I think that the songwriting isn't that great, but I think a lot of people are just going to love this thing unconditionally. I think that, you know, you really don't have anything to lose, even if you don't like this thing. I mean, it's 35 minutes, not a long listen. You can get in and you can listen to this thing, get in and out with it. It's not going to take you that long. It's a fun record. You should go try it out. If you're into indie rock, alt rock, pop rock, and you're trying to support an up-and-coming group that I think is not given as much appreciation as they should, you should try out this record. It's a really solid alt rock and pop rock record. I think that you should get into it. I'm also not going to be scoring albums out of 20 anymore, because I don't like doing that anymore, because I don't want to do it. Because I don't know what I was thinking. Like, out of 20? Who rates things out of 20? And for the first out of 10 rating that I've ever given a record on my channel, let's give it an 8.5. Let's give it an 8.5 out of 10. This is a really solid freaking album for these guys, and I am going to be probably bumping it. It's probably going to be on my year-end list. It's really good, man. It's really good. Really good, mature awesome, funny at points, punchy, catchy, super duper energetic and tight rock record that I think a lot of people are going to get down with, and I'm just going to mess up my hair now. Also, the reason I haven't been putting out videos is because the camera that I use to make my covers has just kicked the bucket. It's not working anymore, and I really don't have a camera that picks up good enough sound to warrant me putting out covers of songs. So I'm not sure what to do with the covers at this point, even though a lot of people have been loving them. The ones that I put out a while back. I think that I still want to do them, but it's kind of hard with me working on my personal music. I have a lot of musical projects that I'm working on with now that I'm actually going to link a lot of things in the description. I'm going to put a link to listen to the new Bonsai Trees record in the description. I'm also going to put a link to my first review of their music, my first review ever on this channel, in the description of their EP, Live Free and Die. You can go watch that in the description if you would like. Also, I'm going to link to now in every video all the different musical groups that I'm a part of. I have my personal music. I'm actually working on a record. I put out a couple singles. You can check out on the channel if you want. But I'm also in a couple of different musical groups. I'm going to link their pages down in the description. I'm going to link maybe a video to one of them if you would like to watch that. I'm going to try to make videos more often. If you want to talk music, if you want to say, hey, what'd you think of this record? What'd you think of that record, man? Definitely hit me up in the comments, or suggest, hey, you should review the upcoming whatever, man, and I'll try to get my hands on those records and review them if I can. I'm gonna try to do this more often, so you could say that Joe Proulx is back. Thank you, Bonsai Trees, for an awesome record. You guys are the greatest. Hope you liked my review. Hope everybody liked my review that's watching this right now. I hope that I can continue to do these reviews more often. But other than that, that is it. Thank you guys for watching. I love you guys. Thank you for getting me over 300 subscribers. That's pretty freaking cool. That is it. Again, thank you guys for watching. My name is Joe Proulx. This is Joe Proulx Music Reviews. And I am out.